Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Today what I want to get into is one of the most common symptoms that people come in with. They just feel drained. They feel like they don't have energy. People are fatigued. It's such a common complaint that a lot of times it's just simply overlooked. People don't know, are they depressed? Are they old? I hear people that have basically said, well, this is what it's like now that I'm over 40. And since I'm well over 40, I usually argue with them saying, well, I don't feel that way. So why do you? And fatigue can be the underlying cause of a lot of diseases, and that certainly needs to be ruled out. And that's why we do blood work and do good diagnostic tests of different types and take a good history and examination. But once all that's been done and a person still walks around saying, I just don't have the energy I used to have, sometimes it's because your life isn't what it used to be. It might be filled with burden. It might be filled with depressing things. You may have gone down a wormhole of some type and decided to, research crazy stuff like the Earth is flat or something. So you want to make sure that your thoughts are proper. But let's take a look. We're going to get into that in a second. But let's take a look at how bad is fatigue in this country. Well, I looked up some stats, and it's 38% of the population will tell you that they're fatigued, tired, or they don't have energy. And that's from everywhere from children all the way up to adults. Now, children can't always express that when they're really young, but as soon as young people have the ability to say that they're tired and understand it, not just cry like when they're tiny little babies, they start saying it. So that's pretty alarming in itself. When patients go to the general practitioners, that's just people walking around, 38%, like in surveys. But when they go to a doctor, it's 43% of the people going to their general practitioner will say, I'm fatigued, I'm tired, I don't know what's wrong with me. And of course, the doc's going to run all kinds of tests to figure out that it's what the underlying conditions are. Once that's done, which in most people, that stuff is done. By the time someone comes to me, often, sometimes I'm the primary person to discover horrifying diseases, but other times people come into me and they're telling me that, they're terribly fatigued. And once we figure out that it's not anything big and serious, we start looking into, what's wrong with your life, what's going on. Um, the number one reason for fatigue, once you get rid of all the big diseases, is lack of exercise. Now, that's no surprise, right? People think, well, I don't have the energy to exercise. And I've told people, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, roll around on the floor. Because motion is part of a system that gets our body to move its fluids. And I think, if you've listened to these podcasts at all, you know that I'm a major fan of that. I'm not going to exhaust that because we have podcasts on exercise. But just know that that's the number one reason you may be fatigued, is that you're not exercising enough, or potentially you're exercising too much. And that's really extremely rare. I probably know 5 people that have exercised too much. Usually people exercise too much, they feel tired and they get it, well, that was too much. Training for a big event, that kind of thing. Most of the time it's lack of exercise. The number two reason is food. And that's no surprise. We've done a bunch of podcasts on that as well. All the different terrible foods, the sugar, white bread, processed foods, and the caffeinated beverages. Turns out once you go beyond 400 milligrams of caffeine a day, you start to have a reverse reaction later in the day. Like you start becoming dependent, and then you can't get out of bed. You can only open one eye. You need a cup of coffee for the other eye. And pretty soon, you're alive again. And that's obviously no way to exist, to be dependent on the chemistry of caffeine. Even though caffeine is natural, it's not the end of the world. I don't get on people's cases too much about drinking coffee. It's a natural product. It's different if you're pumping down the 5-hour energy drinks and fuel and God knows what other artificially sweetened and nitrate and some kind of nitrogen booster that people are drinking. I'm not a big fan of those kind of things, but that is a problem over time. But let's look at one of the things that we see with let's just get a little fuel behind the exercise thing real quickly. When you exercise, you stimulate hunger repressing hormones. You actually want to eat less because your body is so oxygenated. You release glycogen from muscle. That gives you more energy. You oxygenate your body. Of course, that gives you energy. You have oxygen in your body. That's why we breathe. We stimulate the mitochondria and we grow microvasculature. So the small blood vessels in our body actually extend and grow tiny little blood vessels off them. So now we're feeding tissue with much more pipes, much more veins and arteries to get blood to and from tissue. So all that's going to give you that energy of being in shape. So there really isn't any excuse not to exercise. And if you have some excuse not to exercise, please let me know, because I could find ways of getting you to that point at some time relatively soon. The amount of exercise, real quickly, 20 minutes to 2 hours a day. So 20 minutes would be like a minimum. 2 hours would be a maximum for most people, not the extreme athletes, but that's the zone that that helps us. We want to increase our serotonin levels to feel good. Serotonin is a chemical that is um, produced when we exercise. It's produced when we eat good food. Some of it's made in our brain, some of it's made in our intestines. So when you eat good fermented foods, especially, and keep the intestine happy, get rid of all the sugars and white breads and all the not so good processed foods, you'll make more serotonin. Serotonin will give you energy. Serotonin alone, if you measure the amount in people's bodies, will dictate the amount of success and happiness in your life. If you simply take the measurements of serotonin in people, you can predict the success of their lives. That's why we have a lot of antidepressants, which are serotonin uptake inhibitors. They leave more serotonin circulating in your bloodstream. Of course, those drugs come with massive side effects, but for some people, it's necessary. I'm always trying to get all my depressed people and low energy people to produce as much serotonin as possible. And like earlier when we talked about diet being a big thing. So we've exhausted exercise and diet in other podcasts, but just, I think by now, if you're following me, you know that those things are mastering of the fundamentals. That is the fundamental thing you need to do. Let's get into something a little bit more surprising, and I don't think it's real surprising. Sleep habits. Everyone knows we need to sleep to feel energy, but the habits that you have in your sleep. I know a few people that can sleep all different times of the day, take little naps, 3 hours here, 3 hours there. Leonardo da Vinci was known for having a very alternative sleeping schedule. I am not that person. If I don't get the right amount of sleep, I will end up with migraines. So for me, it's pretty simple. I need to get to bed early, get up early, exercise, eat right, and then I feel like $1,000,000. But and most people are that way. This idea of a person being a night owl, that to me, that's a form of imbalance that you should work on. We can't see in the dark. There isn't really any reason for us to be up roaming around in the forest doing anything useful. I always tell people, if you think you're a night owl, go outside and walk in the forest. We'll see how long it is before you fall on your face, slap a stick in your face, or get bitten by something because you can't see it. We do not see well in the dark, which is an indication that we're not supposed to be out there in the dark. Edison invented the light bulb, I believe, and that's kind of a curse, right? Because now we can do things at night, where before, we had like, a little flame on a stick, a torch or something, to try and get some light into our lives. And it was such a bad idea, and couldn't see much. We ended up going to bed and waiting for the sun to come up. And that was, 165,000 years of that. And I think we're pretty much adapted to a day-night cycle and sleeping in the dark, being awake in the light. So try to get your 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. cycles in. That's what I think is the ultimate. I know it's ridiculous. I know it's difficult, but the closer you can get to that, the better you're going to feel. Sleep in a dark, cool room. Fatigue occurs when sleep isn't high quality. High quality sleep occurs in environments that are very absent of stimulation. Heat is a stimulant. Freezing cold is a stimulant. We need a zone that is somewhat comfortable, obviously, and a little cooler than you think will have you sleep deeper than a little warmer than you're doing. So try backing down the temperature of the room 5 degrees from what you think is comfortable, and you may notice that you're actually sleeping deeper. Cool air is really good for your lungs as well. So the dark, cool room is a big deal. Now, if we're going to be dark and cool at night, we probably want to be warm and sunny during the day. That's true. By respecting your circadian rhythm, the rhythm of your body from day to night, and really stimulating it, you're really going to feel a lot more energy. You're going to blow away that fatigue. So you want to make sure you're getting sunlight in the morning and into the noon and a little bit into the afternoon, and then start shutting those light stimulations off in the evening. Now, sunlight, optimally good, right? It makes vitamin D. It's a universal source of energy to the earth. So you can imagine it does a million great things for your body. I promote people getting out in the sun, barring any like really crazy fair skin and drugs that won't allow you to be in the sun. The skin cancers, that kind of thing. If you have a history of that, ease back on that, cover that part of your body. But I really believe that sunlight is crucial to our health. And we need to not just for the sleep and fatigue that we're talking about, but general health overall. So but then there's other forms of light. There's, the LED lights that we're putting in houses to save electrical energy. A lot of these are not good for us. Fluorescent lights are okay. The computer light, the blue light that comes out of your phone, you may have a device that you can turn the blue light off on your phone, and that's good because that isn't a good light for your eyes. And the light that we're using in the evening, the television, the cell phone, the tablets, the laptops, that kind of light is not good. I advise people to get blue blocker glasses. They can be clear or they can be like a sunglass lens, and to get the blue light out. That blue light stimulates your pineal gland. The pineal gland is the part of the gland or part of the body that senses light. In lower vertebrates, lizards, they have a light sensing organ on top of their head. In humans, we had what was once called the anterior fontanelle, which is basically the soft spot on a baby's head. That part of the head used to be able to pick up light, but that gland, the pineal gland, is actually inside by our pituitary. Don't confuse those two things. They sound alike and they're actually right next to each other. The pineal gland gets stimulus now in humans through our eyes. So when we see certain frequencies of light, the pineal gland comes alive and says, hey, it's daytime. Didn't realize about the light bulb, so we haven't adapted to that. So we're going to be waking up when we have certain frequencies of light. If you wear blue blocker glasses, you can still do a little computer work. Not always I still don't think it's a great idea to be doing work in the evening. You always want to keep everything a little bit dimmer. I have patients that have real sleep problems, and I tell them to get sunglasses that are blue blocking and actually watch TV with them on, or use your computer screen with those on and take that light down. Because then your body's going to be ready for night. You're going to be preparing yourself to bring the pineal gland to bring its stimulation down and release the proper chemistry to give you a good night's sleep to get rid of your fatigue. So the next thing they look at is infrared light. Now, infrared, we put a sauna in our office, infrared sauna recently. We've had a lot of patients really love it. I was in it today, actually. Infrared light in the daytime, has a way of really creating that day-night cycle. So it super wakes you up during the day, and then you get that dive later to then be able to get you to sleep. It's much later. It's not like like what sugar does. 2 hours later, you're tired. This is like sets up that noon to midnight type of fading into a deeper sleep. So temperature, not just the infrared light in the sauna, but the temperature. So even a standard sauna, heat shock proteins, great for our immune system, great for setting up our day-night cycle. So taking a sauna in the middle of the day, doesn't have to be middle of the day, but that's they found is best, is a great way of setting that up, especially infrared ones. But that heat shock and cold shock, so temperature variation, jumping into cold water. There are devices you can buy now that you can stick them out in your backyard that are basically just cold tubs. I've seen people take refrigerators and freezers, caulk them up real good, turn them on their side, fill them up with water. But the safer thing, of course, is to buy them. You can buy cold submersion tubs online and dip in there. I love a cold submersion, like after I work out, the body's all hot and tweaked and sore from all the contractions and all the hard work. You go in there and it takes all that inflammation out, drives that blood into the body, and then of course it comes pushing back out, and it's a hypercirculation. That will help you sleep. That will give you energy. It's quite stimulating to do it as well. So we want to make sure that when we do these things, we release the right amount of serotonin. The serotonin gives you energy. It gives you a positive, joyful sort of feeling. When the energy goes up, your willpower goes up. When your willpower goes up, you're more likely to exercise and do positive things with your life. That makes you lose weight. The lighter you are, the more energy you have. So a lot of fatigue is simply you're carrying around 40 pounds of fat or more. So that's going to be a detriment, not just to the actual weight you're carrying, but also the blood has to pump through those fat cells, and that creates resistance. That makes your heart work harder. Why are people winded that are heavy at the top of a staircase when they climb it? Because their heart has to beat so hard to push blood through everything, including the fat cells. And then blood pressure goes up too. So there's that correlation between, being overweight and having high blood pressure and shortness of breath. Pretty soon, you're just plain fatigued again. So by doing the right things initially, like I always tell people, every disciplined action has multiple rewards. So we want to make sure we're doing these things, and then we'll reap multiple rewards, not just one of them. So we got to work on, and you can get into how to produce more serotonin in your body, and a lot of it's diet, and a lot of it is, some of it is positive thinking, having decent thoughts. We'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about supplements, because I always like to boost things with some nutrients because I don't think our food is produced right. There's a lot of missing nutrients in our food, like magnesium, we've talked about being one of the primary minerals that is missing from our food. But alpha lipoic acid, uh, arginine, carnitine, CoQ10, creatine, and niacin. Repeat those one time in case you're writing them down. Alpha lipoic acid, or ALA for short, arginine, carnitine, CoQ10, creatine, and niacin. Those are all supplements that will really help you have energy in a good way. They're not a stimulant. They actually feed the system, the energetic system of our body, and not just, caffeinate us or do something that's going to, just stimulate us, and then we're going to nosedive later. I call that, energy with a small e. I did a talk one time, and I was talking about energy with a big E and a small e. The small e energy, you're going to get a big rush, and then you're going to pay soon. It could be an hour, it could be 20 minutes. Think of, blood sugar going up and coming down, which we know is terrible for us. Now, here's some surprising things I found. Like, some of them are more surprising than others. The most surprising, we'll start with that one, is a cluttered room. They did research on people that were sitting in neat rooms that were all organized and put together really well, and cluttered rooms, and people felt more tired when they were in a cluttered room. And why that is, they couldn't figure out. They surmised that it's possible that people feel like, oh God, I have the burden of having to clean this room up. This room is messy. I just don't feel good in here, because it gives you that feeling like you have work to do that you haven't done yet. So maybe some kind of feeling of burden occurs, is what they thought. So if you wanted to feel a little more energy, clean the room up you're in, have everything organized. It kind of gives people a nice sense. I was listening to, I think he was a colonel in the Army, talk about making your bed every day, and that even if you feel like you can't get anything done, at least you made your bed. I don't do that, I must admit, but I thought that was an interesting concept, that you're achieving at least that. So there's one thing you did, and then from there to the next thing, sort of like a baby stepping through your day, having routine and having, and I think it's a good idea. I just tend not to get around to it. So medication, not surprising. Most people that go on medication for numerous problems end up gaining weight. The reason they're gaining weight is that the energy it takes to detoxify the medication for the part of it that isn't doing so, it's doing its job, hopefully. And then the other part of it is taxing on the body, the kidneys, liver, brain. The whole body tends to have to work with medication, and obviously sometimes it's necessary. I'm not saying it's not. So antidepressants, antihistamines, muscle relaxers, of course. Some of those are very taxing for people. So the person isn't depressed, but they're exhausted. It's kind of a sad trade-off, but sometimes obviously very necessary. Now, attitude is something we can go on, and we had Dr. Fred Cleary in here talking a while back about goal setting and attitudes, and things like that. But one of the things that I did a long time ago is I put together something called a worthy ideal, and it's in my one class at Christopher University. You can take a 28-day class where you listen to a video every 6 minutes, and one of those days is just a real light touch on, or attitudinal issues, like how do we keep our attitude solid. I remember one time an attitude shift that happened to me. A good example, I was early in practice. I was promoting my practice, and they had a health fair, and I was about to go to the health fair to demonstrate proper spinal alignment, put people on what's called the SAM machine, measure their spinal alignment, and potentially be able to say, I can help. I might be able to help you with any back problems you have. Your spine is very much out of alignment, and here's how. It's a real nice device called the SAM machine, spinal analysis machine. I was talking to a friend of mine before I was going, and I said, I have to do that to health fair now. And he's a guy with big goals, big proper attitude. He said, you have to do it. And I thought, yeah, I have to do it in about an hour. And he's like, no, you get to do it. It's a privilege to do it. You're going to meet people that need you. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, okay, you got me. My attitude stinks. I'm just kind of tired today, blah, blah, blah. He says, well, you can't afford to be tired. You're out to heal people. And I kind of snapped out of it. And I went there and I thought, I'm not going here to take, I'm going here to give. And when I changed my attitude from I'm going here to try to get patients into my office, I said, no, this is backwards. I'm going here to give information and give what I can to make people better and take away pain. When I readjusted my attitude, all of a sudden I filled with energy. And I went there and had a fantastic time, met a bunch of amazing people. A bunch of them became patients and are still patients today. And I thought that was, that was 25 years ago, probably. It was an amazing experience, and it was a simple shift in attitude. And I realized I get energy by doing certain things. I don't get energy from taking things. I get energy when I give. It's just how I'm put together. I mean, I like to receive too. I'm not an imbalanced person that way. But I decided that I took a seminar one time, and in there they wanted us to have something called a worthy ideal. I mentioned this in another podcast, and I think it's also on Christopher University as well. That to teach, inspire, and heal are three things that I don't care if I get paid, I don't care what time it is, and they give me energy. So I encourage people to find three words, three things that they enjoy doing. That while they're doing it, you're not doing it for money, you're not doing it for fame, you're not doing it because you're getting paid. You're doing it because it feels good and it gives you energy. And hopefully you have things that you can come up with. I think everybody can. Mine is to teach, inspire, and heal. Those are very interesting things to me. I'm fascinated by any ability to do that. Anytime I can feel like I can approximate or actually do that, I get energy. And that is one of the things in attitude is you should be doing things that give you energy, not things that are just taking it away, right? Use exercise as an example. It takes energy to do it, but then when you're done, you're getting energy after, and you feel this sense of relaxation because you're putting your body on purpose. You're reminding every cell in your body of its purpose, and to me, that's crucial. So look for three things that give you energy, that it doesn't matter. Time flies when you're doing them. And you basically have, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with getting paid, anything like that. It has to do with just how it makes you feel good to do them, and constructive things, of course. So another thing real briefly is people forget to breathe. We had a whole talk on breath one time, and probably I can do another one. There's so many great techniques, but nasal breaths taken deeply with the expansion of your abdomen, not your chest. So you breathe in through your nose and you expand your abdomen. You can put a hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach. Breathe in through your nose and only let your stomach push out as you breathe in. Don't let your chest rise up. That is a sedating, relaxing, and healing breath. Once the chest comes up, it's more of an emergency breath. It's more of a stress breath. If you ever watch somebody who's scared, their chest is going up and down. And you watch somebody in meditation and their stomach is going in and out. Even though obviously one is a more rapid breath, the stress one's a more rapid breath. But it's when you have to get all the air in possible, you'll use both. But that is a way that cues stress hormones and will end up fatiguing you. So make sure you're breathing properly, nasal, abdominal. So talking about stress, that another massive cause of fatigue is stress, of course, right? We kind of know this, but what can we do about it? When we're stressed, we produce cortisol. Cortisol is tied into our fight flight response, which is part of our sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is designed to survive. It's not designed to be on all the time. So if you're watching the news, if you're dealing with constant big concepts that you really can't do anything about, you will end up fatigued because you're not able to complete the cycle of that's a problem, these are my actions, now I've resolved it. When you can do those things, that obviously feels good, right? The resolution of a stressor or getting something accomplished that's difficult feels good. There are things that are going to come into your life, or when you turn on the television, for example, that you can't do anything about. So you're going to say, okay, there's a problem. What actions can I have? Well, there isn't anything, let's say. So now I can't get to resolution. And then you hold that subconsciously. And that subconsciously holding on to something is something wrong in the world and I can't change it, but I think I should. I wish I could. And what do? You sit idly, or you do something silly, or you have to drown yourself in some kind of distraction to be able to tolerate and get back to some kind of feelings of normalcy or feeling good again. So we really want to know we want to make sure that we're careful about what's going into our brain. We're garbage in, garbage out. It's kind of like a computer. The brain, you put the wrong stuff in there. So find positive material, do that kind of stuff. But with the sympathetic nervous system racing like that, it expels a lot of energy. So you're burning energy that for no good reason, and then the body is actually fatigued at the end of the day because it's such a negative thing. So my thing with stress is to make sure that you are recuperating your body, that you're dealing with things that you have control over. There's an old serenity prayer, right, that talks about, God, give me the ability to deal with these things in my life and know the difference between what I can change and what I can't change, and give me the energy to change and the ability to change what I can. and give me the wisdom to know the difference. Like, what is the difference between things I can change and what I can't? So much in the news right now, you can't do anything. You don't have the money, the time, the expertise to be able to change a lot of the stuff. So it really isn't our business to be spending so much time on it. Because the more time we spend on those stressful concepts, the more drained we're going to be. We only have so much energy to be able to deal with some of the negativity in the world. And so we got to find more positive things. I'm always promoting people to read books instead of turning on the television. Of course, I think we all know that, but let's try to practice it. Okay. So that's the podcast for today. It's about energy. It's about how to get more energy. Make sure you're not zapping it. So of course, the foods, exercise, proper sleep habits, getting sunlight in the morning, in the middle of the day, and then using some kind of maybe tinted glasses, blue blocking glass. You can get them anywhere. They're really cheap too. And so the end of the day, so we're properly using light, temperature, get into saunas if you can. Take those deep dives into cold temperature, so that the heat shock and the cold shock is very good for stimulating the body, getting energy. The supplements: alpha lipoic acid, arginine, carnitine, CoQ10, creatine, and niacin. And then, get your room straightened up. Cluttered room is not good, right? Cluttered room is showing people, take a look at the medication you're on, talk to your doctor about it if you think there's an issue with it. Get your attitude right. Do things that give you energy. Do things that, you would do no matter what. And keep an eye on your cortisol levels and the amount of stress and the things that you're doing the things you're getting involved in that you can't do anything about. Don't waste your time. Spend some time getting yourself educated in actions you can take locally, and from your family and your friends and your people at work. Make their lives better, make your life better, make those interactions better, work on that. And when someone gets into negative talk, do a little bit of nodding. That's wonderful. And change the subject, talk about something a little more positive, keep things positive. You're going to have a lot more energy. All right. So if you like these podcasts, give us a thumbs up, share them too. You got people that are depressed and low in energy, send this podcast to them. There could be just one thing I said in here that could change their life dramatically. Go on Christopher University. We got food blogs, we got recipes, all kinds of good stuff. We have our 28 days to Optimum Health class available. You can purchase that and take a 6-minute video for 28 days in a row. 28 different videos, 6 minutes long, to really transform and get you started and on a path to being optimally healthy. All right, guys, have a great day.